On this week's episode of TalkStone, we chat about the Hearthstone competitive points leaders for the Year of the Raven.
We discuss HCT Sweden at DreamHack winner.
Special guest in studio, Sam Braithwaite, Senior Global Franchise Lead for Hearthstone Esports, joins us to talk about what's happening in 2019.
And as always, we present this week's well-played moment in, meme history.
Everybody get in here. Let's break down all the esports action. Welcome to TalkStone, your premier source for all things competitive Hearthstone news and analysis. My name is Frodan.
And I'm TJ.
And this is our last episode of 2018.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the final one. What episode number is this?
15.
From our producer, Nicole Blaylock. Does a fantastic job, a.k.a. Glitch. Who also has, by the way, a better hair game than me. TJ, I'm going through a little bit of a hair crisis right now because I don't know what to do for Roscon's Rumble. And, usually I try to, theme my hair for something. This is obviously, Boomsday. It's on its last legs because it's fading. But Roscon's Rumble, the color palette is kind of all over the place. So I don't know what to do.
You have to make your hair into the shape of a Loa.
Which Loa? There's so many of them.
A rhino.
A rhino. I like the shark one. I think I could pull off a shark fin.
Yeah. I think you could pull
You laughed and giggled as you said that, so that's a terrible idea.
I think you could pull off the rhino horns quite well.
Just a straight up rhino
it doesn't really
horn.
matter what color.
Not the hair, but just actually wear a horn.
Yeah, because that's the next step in your hair game, right? You've gone through each colors, but your style's always been the same, right? So it's time to not only go with the color scheme, but also to just straight up role play as something within the expansion.
I don't even know why I bother asking. This is just a terrible idea. We're going to talk a little bit about 2019's announcements that we're going to dive in later of the show with Sam. There's some big news that dropped last week, if you guys didn't know, with Che and Sam announcing some of their future for Hearthstone Esports. And, of course, we're going to talk about some stuff that also has happened as a year review. So let's start off with what we teased in the very beginning. The final points leaders are in, so we know who is joining us for the World Championships for the Year of the Raven, DJ.
That's right. So for the Americas, Just Saying was the regional points leader, but since he's qualified for the World Championship, that goes down to second place, which is his teammate, Muzzy, which is a very cool story because Muzzy was there to support him at the Fall Championship. And they kind of knew, because Muzzy had such a huge lead over third place, that it was going to happen. But when Just Saying qualified, he knew that he'd also qualified Muzzy in the process. So that's pretty cool. Of course, the Europe representative is going to be Hunter Ace. I think that's no surprise to anybody who's been keeping up with the scene for any part of the year, really. And for Asia Pacific, Tyler has received his spot for the points lead with a pretty big lead, actually, towards the end. Mm-hmm. I think Blood Trail was pretty close to him, but also Blood Trail had a spot at the World Championship. So even if he had passed him, it still would have gone to Tyler.
Actually, it was fairly close. Right behind Blood Trail was, I think, the rest of the pack, and they were all within a few points of each other. So it was a very big cluster at second/third, and then Tyler at number one. So our points leaders, all very convincing victories in the lead. Definitely want to give a shout out to some other people who are very strong in contention. Fino or Monsanto, a few other people. Rivius, all very close, and we've seen them go far on the HCT stage. But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that Muzzy gets in as the player who was second in his region. This year, he went to the Fall Championships to support Saiyan and, help him with his series, but also kind of root for him for his own personal interest, which is, kind of a fun thing, too, because, if your friend wins, you win, etc.
Yeah, also to make sure he went to bed on time, ate healthy meals in the morning.
Yeah,
so
maybe,
he was on top of things.
Mess with Sinto a little bit beforehand. Hey, you want to play some WoW with me? The night before your match, your top 8 match with
You want to go play Pictionary until 4 a.m.?
Yeah. Hearthstone Pro has been going hard for online Pictionary lately. They've been inviting me to all these games, and they stay up really late. But what was really funny is for the qualifying match, I think Muzzy was so exhausted from all of his travels and preparing for the Saiyan the night before that he actually fell asleep during Saiyan's top 8 qualifying match. I have a picture of it. And it was so funny. It's man, even the moment of glory, that was his epic moment, where confetti is supposed to break out metaphorically, yeah, you're going to the World Championships, and Muzzy was passed out because he was so tired in the stands. But good for all the Hearthstone Masters that made it. And with that, there's a lot of questions about how the Master system is going to carry over to 2019. But I think the thing to focus on is quite the achievement that we have for all the 2- and 3-star Masters that are currently solidified their place now that the point standings are in.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the year there was a lot of people that said, "Oh, 3-star Masters is unobtainable. Nobody's going to be able to reach it." And the fact that we have a few 3-star and a handful of 2-stars is a pretty cool thing, and they'll still be able to reap the benefits of that. And also, it'll still be exclusive to them, right? Calling them 3-star Masters. We have the transitional season coming up, which was announced with the plans where players will still be able to earn points, especially with winter playoffs coming up. They'll still be able to get the rewards if they reach those point thresholds, which we added a new point threshold as well at the very bottom, which I heard a lot of people calling like baby masters. But they won't be called 3-star master. So even if they get 200 points in the transitional season, they won't be called a 3-star master. Yeah. They'll still be able to reap the benefits, kind of those rewards. But they did not get that. They don't get the prestige that comes along with it.
It's the same rewards. But,
yes.
And the reason why we say that is only because to acknowledge how impossibly – it's actually not even impossible. They literally did it.
Yeah.
How ridiculous it is that Hunter Race and Saiyan were able to achieve this. And some people were really close, like 190 points or so. But also, the difference between Hunter Race and Saiyan is even alarming, too. It's like a 30-point difference. Like Hunter Race is very clearly in 2-star Masters. Saiyan barely got over the hump, and he went through one of the most dominant streaks in Hearthstone history. TJ, I'm just in utter disbelief about how consistent these guys were throughout the year to land this achievement.
Yeah.
Even though everyone said it was just impossible to do.
Yeah, and I think it'll still be impressive for the players that hit that 200-point threshold in the transitional season. They get very similar benefits to being a 3-star master. The one thing that they don't get is those monthly Masters Cups that will go away once the transitional period ends. Which, by the way, those are going to be starting up pretty soon, which I think is pretty cool.
That's right.
Because we finally have enough actual Masters players to do those monthly cups.
Yes, that is actually not just a joke anymore. It's not just a meme.
No, it's not. They're actually taking place, but those players that do hit that 200-point threshold or, the 175 or 150 or even 120 will still get the new rewards that are outlined in our 2019 esports announcements, which you guys can go see. So I'm still looking forward to see which players end up hitting those thresholds just to see. And I also think that it's impressive, but I don't think anybody – This is a pretty bold statement, I guess, but I don't think anybody will reach that level of success that Just Saying and Hunter Ace and Muzzy had in tandem together this year. It was just such a cool thing to watch coming from someone who's been in the scene for 4 years now.
Yeah. I mean, even Tyler, too, not only going #1 points, but making it to the Fall Championship to help solidify that result. Fantastic all the way through. So, as of this time of the recording for this episode, we are still determining the final tally of points because the season just ended a couple days ago. So I think we're making sure that we get all the right 64 players or more for each region as we get ready for the ultimate standings, which is going to be exciting to see. Let's talk a little bit about all the stuff coming up or what just happened. So HCT Sweden or DreamHack Winter just concluded. We'll talk about that in just a second. HCT Philadelphia is coming up in a week or two after RostCon's Rumble. It's going to be exciting because I believe I might even be casting that. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then the Winter Playoffs right after that, too. We celebrate the holidays after HCT Philly, take some time for Christmas and New Year's. And then we go into, TJ, our favorite time of the year.
Right into it. Playoffs. I love playoffs. I can't wait. I'm also really excited for HCT Philadelphia. It's very soon after an expansion. It is in that transition season that we talked about, so players aren't going to be going there to secure a spot at the World Championship or anything like that. But it will be a very cool tournament to watch just because so many new decks and new archetypes could pop up. I think, during Boomsday, the Boomsday meta was cool, but we saw a lot of the same archetypes and, same decks with revamped, right? We saw Death Rattle Hunter again, but with spider bombs and
right. It was more like a shuffling of decks in a way.
Yeah,
it was like we added a few tools and you shuffled them in, and then the tier list kind of reorganized. We had a couple of new things like Cloning Gathering Priest made quite a comeback.
Yep.
or right now, sorry, quite a rise, and then you have some archetypes that we thought were dead make quite the comeback.
But Rastakan's Rumble, I think, judging now, we're recording, 10 hours before Rastakan's Rumble is released. It appears that we're going to shake things up pretty significantly. There's a lot of cards that seem like they could be deck-defining, potentially meta-defining, high power level across the board. And I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of new archetypes, and I'm going to love to see players experiment. So I'm looking forward to that. And, of course, playoffs soon after that, which is just long enough to where we start to get some refinement. It's about a month. The Europe playoff starts about a month after expansion's released. So we just enough time for refinement, but still there could be some decks that prop up that we've never seen. And that's the case for almost all the playoffs this year. They kind of had a similar time structure. So really looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, you start off with Witchwood meta where people were starting to catch on to the even Paladin train.
Yep.
Which we'll talk about later too, by the way. And then you saw the transition. People were like playing Control Priest and Taunt Druid and even Paladin and all the other decks were starting to grow more in popularity or fall based off what their performances were. And you saw the same thing with Boomsday. I mean, you saw this weird pocket meta in Boomsday, which was probably my favorite part of anything in HCT during that season, was Rivius playing the double or triple Megathune lineup.
Yeah.
And it was just really weird, janky stuff, and it was just awesome to see. The evolution week to week. Playoffs are really cool, and people might be wondering, why don't you do playoffs the week after release? And that's because things are so new that it's just really uncertain, and pro players need to put time to practice so that you can show masterful play. If everything is just super chaotic, you'll have everyone spamming the Shutterwalk shot, or actually the Mechathune Druid would be the first thing everyone played. Remember on day one of the Boomsday expansion, it was Mechathune Druid is insanely broken, or Shutterwalk Shaman's insanely broken. They realized there's weaknesses to that deck. And then people started refining. So give a little bit of space and breather, especially let people celebrate Christmas and New Year's. We learned that lesson for several years now in Hearthstone. And come around January, playoffs in full force. The gang gets reunited. It's going to be really exciting. I can't wait. Looking forward to that. And, of course, Winter Championships a few weeks after playoffs, and then the World Championships after that with rotation. It's a lot to look forward to in 2019. It's going to be a fantastic year. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves, TJ. We also have the last tour stop of Boomsday, which was HCT Sweden at DreamHack Winter. What were some of the storylines that stuck out to you as we get to watch this unfold?
Quite a few. The first one being that we had a final that was two kind of newcomers to the scene. Burrow, a really young player, I think he's 19 years old, from Germany, ended up taking the whole thing. Very meticulous player. You showed him on every time he was shown on screen. He looked either just focused or nervous. That was it. There was no emotion in between, no playfulness like a lot of the experienced players at DreamHack kind of experience. And it was really cool to see him just kind of methodically work his way up that top 16. And he won against Perdub, a Czech player, who was across the weekend was kind of painted like this bad boy, right? He's got that slicked, silver hair to the side. He was emoting a lot and, kind of almost taunting his opponents at times when he was on broadcast, because at DreamHack they sit right in front of each other.
Yes.
It's kind of jarring when they peel back and say these players are 5 feet from each other. And he ended up losing in the finals, but still showed a very impressive play, playing the that big priest kind of.
The cloning gallery priest, whatever you want to call it, combo priest. Which that deck, by the way, has made quite the resurgence in the late Boomsday meta. People were already on the fence. On the positive side of the fence, they were starting to make the jump before the nerfs came. They were starting to experiment. I know Asmodai and Savitz and all of them were still experimenting and having good results, and then started making its way into tournament lineups, kind of as a joke. And then, Lee? Who is it that won with this cloning gallery priest in one of the tour stops, and then it just carried over momentum, and people just started playing it a lot in tournaments. It's wow, this is actually a legit deck. Yeah. And I think that was one of the hidden gems from the Boomsday meta. I think this is a fairly unique way that Priest has played. I know people compare it to Big Priest, but it has such a more dynamic gameplay.
Oh, it's way more dynamic.
It's way more dynamic, much more than Barnes on 4.
It's not a traditional combo deck, right? You do have the combo where sometimes if you draw all your non-combo minions, you Zerg Cloning Galley on turn 9, get Malagos, Felon, double Radiant Elemental, and have double Mind Blast in hand for 40 damage, sure. Then it's a true combo deck.
Happen once in a while.
But that doesn't happen very often. And navigating, maximizing spell stones and maximizing life gain with Spirit Lash, when to just play things out, when to hold on to resources. Really intricate deck to play. A lot of different ways to win the game.
That's right.
And we're seeing like Witchwood Grizzlies make its way into the deck now, which gives you even another alternate win condition, sort of, against more aggressive decks. Yeah, so really like the deck. And one thing I also want to mention is Burrow. He had Quest Rogue in his tournament-winning lineup.
Yeah, actually, several people had Quest Rogue in the top 8.
It was very prevalent in the top 16.
Is there going to be, another nerf to Quest Rogue? I feel like Quest Rogue is the
fifth
ultimate cockroach of Hearthstone. Just will not die. This deck just refuses to quit. Like, there's just no way it ever will be irrelevant. And I think it's also just supplanted by the fact that it's a hard deck to play. A lot of people still are debating about a lot of lines that they can take. You look at guys like Rage, who finished number 1, a month ago with Quest Rogue, and he was like, "Yeah, I think this deck is still fantastic. It's harder than it's been, ever because of how much it's gotten nerfed and limited by the." Some of the patch changes. So it's really cool to see these small innovations that still happened, even when, quite candidly speaking, towards the end of a content cycle, that's when people are most like, they don't really watch or care nearly as much about the meta evolving, because they're like, well, I'm looking forward to a new set. Everyone's talking about the new set, the new cards, expansion. That's what people are focusing on. They're focusing less on, like, what can I do to innovate this Boomsday meta? Yeah. And yet people are still doing it. And that's what makes me really happy.
Yeah, it was really cool to see, even Paladin started cropping up on ladder in the tournaments like a few weeks ago, but really out in full force with both players in the final, having even Paladin in their lineup. I want to go over Burrow's winning lineup, which was Quest Rogue, Death Rattle Hunter, Malagos Druid, and the Even Paladin. Which seems like the Even Paladin, Malagos Druid, Death Rattle Hunter seems pretty common. It was in a lot of players' lineups. The Quest Rogue, very interesting, and I like how you mentioned it's getting harder and harder to play. People are still finding ways to use it, but Lab Recruiter makes its way into the deck now to have a win condition in Fatigue. We're seeing Ziliax also make its way into the deck to have extra defensive tools to kind of fill the void of Giggling Inventor. It's
just stall. Everything is just stall. I mean, I've won games where I just lab recruited my Ziliax. Yeah. And I just had to rely on that to stall until I can draw Valera.
Yeah, it's pretty it's cool to see the evolution of the deck. Mm-hmm. I'm curious where it's going to sit in Rosagon's Rumble. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. I don't think they got that much support. But we've said that about cards in previous sets that just end up finding their way into the deck and making it more powerful. So we'll definitely have to see. But anon to some other players that made it into the top 16. Boston and Faeli, 2 very prominent Tour Stop players this year, fell out in the semifinals. DeVito, who a Polish player, made it. Tyler's in top 8. We saw Toast Monster
and Board Control made top 16.
Board Control made top 16. That's right.
It's cool that we actually get to see the tour actually do what it's supposed to do, which is discover new names. So even though people might look at DreamHack Winter and just be like, oh, these are just 2 quote randoms that we don't know about. It's like that's what the system's supposed to help do. We balance out Sane and Hunter Ace's insane streak by having some new challengers come to the throne. And remember, Hunter Ace was just a random 18-year-old kid from Norway that challenged players just a year and a half ago at some of these events. Maybe Burrow and all these new youngins can challenge Hunter Ace and all of them in the coming years. I want to see that happen.
Burrow showed a lot of the qualities that these players had when they were first making their breakthrough. Even just his presence on camera kind of reminded me of like Muzzy or Saiyan back in the day. And his play as well to back it up. So hopefully we'll see a lot more of him. And overall, a pretty good tour stop to round off the Boomsday meta.
All right, and now it's time, TJ, for the well-played moment, where every episode we pick a moment that stands out from the competitive scene, and that was the most
well played.
Now, this week is a little bit of a different twist, actually, on the well-played moment. Even though I gave that preface that we pick, like, wow, this is like incredibly well played, and GG, that was sick. This one was just such a unique way to win a game that I think no one will be dissatisfied by our choice.
So we're taking creative liberty with the well-played moment this week. Yes. And even though the moment was kind of well-played,
it was well-played. You recognize the moment.
It was pretty well-played. At the very least, this is a play that would make your opponent use the well-played emote.
Unironically.
This
is a play that if it happened to you on ladder, you wouldn't even be mad. You'd be kind of happy that it happened.
You'd take a screenshot, and you'd post it to your friends. That's what this play is.
Okay.
And so we decided to highlight it. This play was from round number 5 of the Swiss, a match between Tyler and Jarla, two very well-known players.
Great players.
It was a Shutterwalk Shaman mirror match, which can get pretty weird. A lot of times they're very straightforward. One player draws the full combo, plays Shutterwalk, the other player can't do anything. But when you throw Hagatha into the mix, that's when it gets weird. And this play was exactly that. Jarla had Hagatha rolling, and one of the spells that he received from Hagatha was a Stormbringer, which turns all of your minions onto the board into random legendary minions. He used it on a very small board because he didn't really have any other plays to do. He had removal in his hand, a couple of healing rains with pretty high life total. He had Shutterwalk, but not enough of the combo to just drop it on the board. So he went with the Stormbringer. And from the Stormbringer, Jarla gets a Black Howl gun turret.
This is a 3/8 warrior legendary minion that can attack. It says it straight up, like Ancient Watcher, can attack. Whenever this minion takes damage, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. So it's kind of got a knife juggler-like effect. So a lot of people were theory crafting with Warrior. You can enrage it, do a bunch of cool whirlwind effects, and then hit your opponent for big combo damage. But it never came into reality. So people actually kind of forgot about what this card can actually do, to the point where Jarla was reading the card during his turn. Like he was hovering over it and squinting his eyes, trying to imagine what's going on, and then he's trying to realize does this actually work the way I think it does, or is it like a one-time activation if I destroy this minion with Volcano?
Yeah.
So he's trying to figure out the interaction. Tyler doesn't even realize what's going on. He just trades into this Indragosa instead and leaves the Gunspire turret by itself. It's like, I can't attack, should be fine. And then Jarla sees, okay, my Gunspire has 8 health. If it deals 3 damage for each time it loses the health, it'll be 24 damage. Tyler's at 23, clear board. I'm just going to go for it. But he hesitates because he's still not sure about this interaction.
Yeah, after the Syndragosa trades into the Grumble, which Tyler had left on the board, he just mouses over it, looks at Volcano, mouses over it again, sees his opponent has 23 health, does the math in his head. 3, it's going to hit it 8 times. 24, he's at 23 health.
Right. and then he's wondering, if I get this wrong and I only deal 3 damage for some reason because I didn't know the interaction, is this too bad? It's whatever, rip it. And then Tyler's just kind of nodding off, I can't wait for this guy to take his turret. Shutterwalk, shot my mirrors. Realizes what's happening. He starts laughing.
Yeah.
He just recognized that he completely fumbled because he had Hex. Could have addressed that that gun turret the entire time. And, yes, Tyler could have played that situation better, but that's one of those situations where it's so far and few in between it when that actually happens to you that it's a story worth telling. And that's often when I drop the well-played emote unironically to my opponent. And it's I think that's a fantastic instance of competitive Hearthstone when you can just take a step back and realize how much fun you're having.
So we wrap up HCT Sweden at DreamHack Winter. It was a good tournament, good well-played moment. But Dan, this weekend I got to cast Collegiate Regional Playoffs, which was a pretty cool event to watch, trying to see some of the up-and-coming Collegiate players.
That's right.
And coming up next week is actually the start of the Collegiate National Championship for the fall season. Yeah,
we see a lot of great talent go through the Collegiate circuit. You have Noblord, who, in my opinion, is actually one of the greatest thinkers of Hearthstone out there, especially for the Americas, let alone the global scene. very underrated player, Language Hacker, our fall champion, went through the collegiate scene. So you have a lot of up and coming talent that plays through that circuit. So don't write it off just because you know that they're quote amateur players playing for scholarships. Some of these people, a lot of these people got some serious skills.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest stories out of the weekend was a player named Ryder, who you may recognize from HCT playoffs and tour stops alike, was specifically recruited by Utah. University of Utah for their esports program as a Hearthstone player coming out of high school. And they've qualified to the Collegiate National Championship representing the West. So a pretty cool story coming out of there.
So that's why his username was Ryder HS. The HS stand for I'm still in high school.
Yes, it was. So they knew to recruit him. But I'm looking forward to that. And take a look at this promo, Dan. Promo time for Collegiate Hearthstone.
Welcome back to TalkStone, everybody. We're joined by our special guest, Sam Braithwaite, our senior global franchise lead, Hearthstone Esports.
There you go.
How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I know there's been some exciting news in recent times about what's coming up next for Hearthstone Esports, and I think a lot of people are really curious about the changes. There's a lot happening. Even from 2017 to 2018. Yeah. There was a lot of changes, and now once again, a lot of changes. So let's just talk a little bit about exactly that. So, what are some of the goals going into next year that you guys have for this entire scene and community?
Yeah, so we're only able to kind of release a little bit of the information right now, but what we were trying to do is get things ahead of the players because we knew a new season was coming out, and we wanted to let people know what they could expect for next year. Hearthstone has this weird off-cycle esports thing to where our season ends in April, and it makes it so that our 2019 announcement is really, April and beyond of next year. But some of the things that we're really excited about is what we're really trying to do is not simplify, but streamline the Hearthstone esports experience, both for players and fans alike. One of the things that we're finding is just Hearthstone is a difficult esport to follow. There's a lot going on. People are earning points through a lot of various ways. The travel fatigue is very real. And at the end of the day, when you sit down with some of the best players in the world and they're unable to stream the game and build their own personality because they're traveling too much or the burden of grinding ladder is too much, that's an issue that we need to address. And so what we're really trying to do first and foremost is take a step back and make a really consistent experience for both fans and players alike when we look at Hearthstone Esports next year. On top of that, one of our other big goals is we really want to try and kind of reapproach how we're showing Hearthstone Esports to our fans. We think that there's still a core esport experience that we want to deliver on, but we really want to try and take a different tone next year with how we're doing our broadcast to be a little bit more educational and more entertaining for our fans.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So when you say educational, are you saying me and TJ don't do a good job already educating all the fans out there about the being Hearthstone?
Yeah, come on, Sam.
Yeah, that's not. That's what the people are saying. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. I'm just the voice of the people.
Okay.
But we do a lot of surveys here at Blizzard, and one of the things that we find is that a surprisingly large amount of people watch professional Hearthstone to get better at the game. And so it makes me think, what are we doing as the broadcast team? What are we doing as the people who are organizing the formats and the design? How are we making the entire Hearthstone Esports experience something to where when you're watching, you're becoming a better deck builder, you're becoming a better player, you're making the mechanical decisions. How do we put you more into the mindset of a professional player and show you what they're thinking and maybe even give you glimpses of it during a game that's actually happening?
Wow.
And so it is one of those things that we're going to try and be focusing on. And we think that there's a really big opportunity that we're missing right there of how are we as the esports team making people better at Hearthstone?
Yeah, all jokes aside, Sam, you're saying all the right things that gets me excited, and I'm the one broadcasting some of the times for you guys, so it's really cool to hear. I know one of the things that you guys wanted to go into 2018 for this year was trying to find who are the true best players, and now that we have some players who I feel like have separated themselves from the pack as elite, do you guys feel like that goal was successfully hit? Because yes, you mentioned a little bit of burnout and grind, but I do feel like the collection of players we have now, no one's going to argue with whether or not these players deserve to have those results. We have some amazing consistency this year.
Totally. I think that this year's system definitely worked in identifying who are the best Hearthstone players in the world. So now that we know who those players are, how many people outside of like that core esports group know who those players are? Does your average Hearthstone player know who Hunter Ace is? Do they know who Muzzy is? Just saying, that's what we want to do. Is we want to be able to create, and one of the tiers of competition that we'll be talking about later is that tier 3, that premier competition. How are we taking these guys and how are we giving them a runway to build their own brands and their own personalities? How are we giving them the opportunity to become a professional Hearthstone player, and what is the lifestyle of a professional Hearthstone player? And I think that's one of those things that we need to relook at. We spend our year identifying who those best players are. Okay, we have them. Now, how do we give them the breathing space to actually be able to utilize this, 3-star master that they earned? Mm-hmm. How do they actually correlate that into success both in and out of the game? And I think that's one of those things that we missed the ball on this year.
Wow, it's a lot of detail. The lifestyle of the Hearthstone. I can tell you my lifestyle. It's a lot of chips and salsa and water at my computer desk. But you actually hit upon the 3-tier system. Let's talk a little bit about that. So let's start from the very bottom. The qualifiers compared to what you guys had in the past. So why such a drastic change? Why go straight into qualifiers in terms of tournaments?
Yeah, I think for us, specifically if we use ladder as an example, I think we were missing what we were trying to do ultimately with our goal on ladder. It ended up turning into a grind, often unpredictable for the players at the end of the season about where they stand. I think it's a different story when we want it to be a little bit more approachable. If you ask anybody, what does it take to be a Hearthstone pro? The amount of hours and the amount of gruesome, I would like to call it non-fun grinding that people are putting in is something that we're trying to remove from the situation. We want to make it a very clear and easy path to becoming a pro player. The mix of points that you get from ladder compared to going to different tour stops, it got really confusing, and a lot of people didn't even understand it that we're competing. And most point earners don't even know sometimes that they even earned points from competing on the ladder or how. And so what we really wanted to do was make it so that, okay, I want to be involved in professional Hearthstone. What does it take for me to go and compete at a live event with people that I know and see? Well, it should just take signing up and playing in a tournament, and if you win that tournament, you've earned that spot. And that's a story that's really easy to digest for everybody, from players to viewers, and for you guys on the broadcast team to be able to say, hey, this is how this player got to an event. It's a little bit difficult sometimes right now communicating that message. And so we think that these qualifiers will make that story much, much easier. And the whole kind of story that we're trying to sell is that no matter who you are or where you're at, you play in one tournament. You win that one tournament, you get an invitation to go to a $250,000 event where the coolest dudes are. That's where, the Frodans are going to be. That's where you're going to see the best players in the world. I don't know if you're going to make it. But
Sam, you're going to be there.
This is where I'll be there.
Okay, so the coolest dudes will be there.
But, you win one event, and then all the streamers, the personalities, the best players that you've seen and you've been watching for years, you get to go and interact with them and have a shot to be a pro Hearthstone player. And that's a really cool dream that I think is worth exploring.
I have a question here. Do you ever plan on banning the entire Blizzard-wide rule that their employees can't play in tournaments?
We got to save money for other people, man.
That's right.
I want to slay, man. That's what I want to do. No.
Oh, TJ, the exit's right over there, man. You can turn in your badge anytime.
Yeah. Well, he told me that I might not be at those events.
Oh, right. So
I have to find another way to qualify to them.
Right. Well, I'm sure if you put on a mask or maybe a slice of bread over your face, people won't be able to tell you. I think you hit on some really good notes. I think one of the most frustrating things for a lot of players was they didn't even know if they qualified for some of these events. So I feel like this makes it a lot clearer. And you also touched a little bit upon the $250,000 events. What's the motivation behind that compared to, say, the tour stop system, which we had go all over the place, all over the world? It seems like you're doing less events, but making them much grander.
Yeah, I think that tour stops, while successful, stopped generating a lot of interest and buzz for people. There was just so many things going on with Hearthstone to where every single week you tune in, we get to see your guys' beautiful faces, but there's a different event in a different part of the country, or it's global games, or it's collegiate. There was just so much Hearthstone esports going on that I think what was important and why it was important, that meaning got lost along the way. And there's so many, $5,000 to $15,000 tournaments that those, again, stop becoming exciting. And so how do we do something that excites the casual player, that excites the professional players that have been going to all these tour stops? Those are huge, big events like a $250,000 tournaments. We want those weekends when they come out, we want those to be the hype weekends in Hearthstone, to where everybody tunes in, to where you take off work or you plan with your buddies to do a watch party, because this is that moment where all the stakes are on the line, huge prize pool, open bracket to where people are coming in and qualifying from all over the world. You have the revered best players in the world that have already qualified in through this other tier. It will be a hodgepodge of the best and brightest from all around the world. That's worth tuning into. That's something that we can put messaging and stories behind. And right now it's difficult for us to do that. And so we are going to start off with 3 in 2019. We want to do even more than that in 2020. But these are going to be the key marquee moments that we as Blizzard are able to put our big ideas behind in our marketing, in our promotions. This is where we drive in tune in messaging, is big $250,000 tournament. Come check it out.
Yeah, that anybody can still qualify for. Just like the same, people are talking about like missing the ladder experience that's convenient, but playing in these qualifiers, there's going to be lots of opportunities to do exactly that.
Yeah, and we're still exploring ways to tie ladder into it somehow. We think that there is a very awesome thing that we have with ladder, and we want to still encourage people to participate in it. We're trying to find what that right loop is to figure out how we can get those people that are top performers on ladders and still reward them for their time and effort that they're putting in. We'll have more information on that later, but there's still an appeal there that we want to get at. We just think that the main qualifying experience should come from playing in and winning a tournament.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that's a little snippet that I didn't expect.
Not making ladder mandatory, I guess, is the right way to put it.
It's step one. Yeah, for what seems to be a multi-step process. And I'm glad that you hit on the note of making these events really exciting. I got to say that my favorite thing about the World Championships isn't just that we're crowning a single world champion, isn't just the excitement of the room. It's the fact that there's just high stakes. And like every move has like an implication. When Pavel polymorphed Amnesiac's Malygos, that was like a $25,000 play. Like when you contextualize that sounds really exciting. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that crazy thing happened. And that's what turns heads sometimes, and sometimes even makes it hard for me to watch and cast. I'm like, oh man, if I was in that seat, I don't think I could handle that mentally. It's pretty exciting stuff. The last thing we want to talk about is the premier level. I know you guys said that you couldn't share too much about it because there's more details going to be shared soon. But Sam, why don't you take a second to address that a little bit?
Yeah, what people can expect is an online competition with the best Hearthstone players in the specific region, battling it out on a weekly cadence. These will be the best, some of the most popular Hearthstone players that we know of, that not just present but in past as well. And what we're trying to really accomplish with this is be able to give, once again, that runway for the best Hearthstone players in the world to start building up those personalities. We really think it's important that we as Blizzard, and we think this is one of those things that we missed this year, is yes, we're identifying who the best players in the world are, but do they have that opportunity to make repeat occurrences to get their face, to get their brand out there? And we think that this is what the premier competition will do. We're giving them that breathing space and that opportunity because they've already proven that they're the best of the best. We don't want them to go through that same rigorous trial that everybody else is going to be going through.
So they don't have to prove that they can hang. I feel
they've already done that, right?
Yeah, Muzzy for 3 years now has been points leader or effective points leader, qualifying for the World Championship for multiple years. It's how many times do we need to have him start at ground zero with everyone else, and has to once again show that he has that consistency. So I think you hit a great point. And the last thing I want to call out is they don't have to choose between being part of the community or being a pro. And I feel like a lot of players, unfortunately, are stuck with that tough choice because if they want to participate in the community and stream or create YouTube videos or even travel to events and just hang out and participate in a non-competitive way, that's taking time away from them trying to be a professional player. And that felt like a really tough road that so many people have to walk. And I mean, you look at players like Dog and Tice, I don't know how they've been able to do it. They've been able to juggle both. Maybe they don't have to choose through something like this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we got to leverage the fact that Hearthstone is probably one of the most streamable games that you could ever ask for. Like, it is just such a great experience to watch. It's a great experience to stream. We want to be able to give that lifestyle option to our professional players. And then not only that, but we have a lot of plans on our end about what we can do to support those guys. How can we start kickstarting some of these guys' streaming careers and giving them tools to be successful?
All right. Well, Sam, that's all the time that we got. And I wish we could keep you for longer. We got to let you go. Is there anything else you want to say or like final words or send off?
Yeah. So I'm new to the Hearthstone community, so thank you guys for welcoming me so far. I hope you like what the team is going to be doing next year. We have a lot more announcements for you guys coming up, including HCT 2019 World Championship and the details surrounding that. So just stay tuned, and I'll catch you guys next time we put out a big announcement, and looking forward to getting to know all of you.
Sam, I know you're really busy planning, holidays coming up, and lots of things to look forward to. Appreciate the time. If you guys want to find out more information, check out blizz.ly/esports2019. Again, that's blizz.ly/esports2019 for all the information, including a nice little fireside chat with Jay and Sam, where they can show you guys what they're talking about a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, TJ, now that we got Sam in the studio and we had all these great things looking forward, let's look back with meme history.
Whew.
This week's meme history is not necessarily...
Hold on, Dan. Hold on. And now it's time for meme history. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I lost my train of thought. I totally ruined it. Okay, so this week's meme history is not necessarily as much of a meme as it's kind of an inside joke between friends, but I tend to make a lot of bad predictions. People look at Trump, for example, Hearthstone's Trump, as being a bad indicator for reviewing cards ahead of time because they just make fun of some of his predictions. To be fair, Trump's also made a lot of good predictions about some card reviews and sets, but I also have my fair share of bad ones. But what I started doing as an exercise on social media is the day before the new set releases, I've been trying to list out a few bold predictions that I think will happen in the set. And they're things that are like I could be completely wrong about and look stupid. Like one of them for Witchwood was like Quest Shaman or Murloc Shaman's going to be like a good thing. Mm-hmm. Turns out it wasn't, but hey, I think Murloc Shaman's still underrated to this day. For Boomsday, I said, hey, Mech Cthulhu is going to win games on the HCT stage, which ended up doing good. But I also said Drew is not going to be as great as you think it is, and it turned out to be pretty good. So, you know, this week, in honor of Rastakon's Rumble coming out, and we are recording this the night before the expansion release, so even though you guys are watching this and Rastakon Rumble is out, our bold predictions will be before any first card is played officially on the live server. So TJ, before I give my bold prediction, I want to ask you, what is your bold prediction for Rastakon's Rumble?
My bold prediction for Rastakon's Rumble is that the life coach prophecy will come true.
Quest Hunter.
Quest Hunter.
Ooh.
Life coach made a storm on social media about how he thought that Quest Hunter would be overpowered in the best deck in the game.
And when it was revealed.
When it was revealed.
This was 2016
yeah.
when we were looking at cards. Or sorry, 2017 for Journey 2 and Guro.
But I do think that Quest Hunter is getting some good ammo, and I do think that it will be a viable deck in the metagame.
What's considered viable?
A viable deck in the metagame
above
is
50% win rate?
Above a 50% win rate. I would even go so far as to say above a 52% win rate.
So tier 2?
So tier 2, solidly tier 2, and it will make its way into some tournament lineups. Not a lot, but some.
It'll be played
yes.
competitively on the HCT stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason I say this is for a few reasons, and I'm trying to find the card name right now for one of the cards, but Halazi, the Lynx, which fills your hand with 1/1 Lynxes that have Rush. That's the first one. Mm-hmm. The second one is the 3-mana 3/4 that gives every beast you draw +2/+2.
I know which card you're talking about.
You know which card I'm talking about. I'm looking through the set right now. I can't find the name, but the point is,
I think that synergy there.
There's a lot of great synergy there, especially once the quest is completed.
Oh, TJ, can I go one step even further beyond?
Absolutely.
Are all those cards odd costed?
Whoa.
Because then you could play Odd Quest Hunter.
Odd Quest Hunter.
Well, mainly one, you hero power them. But the second one, in case you can't hero power them,
all right.
In case they gain 60 armor as Druid or Odd Warrior.
My new bold prediction. Odd Quest Hunter will be a playable deck in the metagame. What is your bold prediction?
My bold prediction, TJ, is that there are 23 legendaries in this set.
Okay.
There's 5 neutral plus 2 for each class, so that's 18. And 5 plus 18 is 23. And I would say out of those 23, 22 of them will see HCT competitive play and either qualify for like top 32s or like win games on stream, etc. They're going to prove their worth. I think Rostockon's Rumble set are filled with fantastic cards. I haven't been this excited for a set since probably Knights of the Frozen Throne. Like, I've been excited for other sets, of course, but in terms of my level of excitement, I really look forward to the set. I love a lot of the designs, where it's heading, and I like a lot of the legendaries. I think maybe 1 or 2 of them could be borderline. Like, they're more
What is
niche
the one
decks.
legendary?
Huh?
What is the one legendary?
I don't want to say because I don't want to curse myself.
Okay.
But I do think 1 or 2 are like borderline memes, not exactly like super competitive, more fun. But a lot of them are very solid, especially the neutrals. All the neutral legendaries are, in my opinion, very solid and fantastic, and have their specific uses. Even Grifta. So we'll see what ends up happening, and could end up being my words. I'm going to make the full lease tweet tonight for my bold prediction set, and I hope it goes well.
Well, there's one more thing we have to do to wrap up the segment, and that's for you to reveal what your Boomsday bold predictions were.
Oh, no. Okay, my Boomsday
because this is the
predictions.
actual meme of meme history. It was your Boomsday bold predictions.
Right. I wrote my Boomsday Eve bold predictions. Number 1, Druid won't be the best class or nerfed. And Druid at one point held the title as the best class.
And Aviana was nerfed.
That's not fair. It was wild. I wasn't expecting them to go back into the time machine and nerf Aviana.
This is
wild.
Bzz, it's a buzzer. Next one.
2, instead, many players will ask for Paladin nerfs because mech/aggro Paladin is going to be very powerful.
Bzz, next.
3, sleeper decks for Tier 2 or above. Tier 2 implies a 50% win rate or above, making it legend viable for most people. OTK Mage.
Okay.
Big/combo Priest.
So you're 50% there because Derek's Cloning Gallery Priest, I would say, is solidly in Tier 2 right now.
And if you think about it, playing Mana Worm on turn 1 is kind of like a turn 1 kill because next turn is Primordial Glyph.
Okay, 50%. Half a buzzer.
4, Mecha'thun will win games on the HCT stage. Easy
okay.
peasy.
You got that one. So 1.5 out of 4.
I would say like a little bit over 2.
Not too bad.
Like a Tier 2 deck. Like it was like a 50%, 51% prediction.
Not too bad, but still meme-worthy. So thank you very much for that, Dan. And, of course, as always, we hope that this episode of Meme History helped to make the Hearthstone community a more inclusive place for all.
That does it for us today, TJ, for this episode of TalkStone. It's our last episode of the year. 2019 is coming to close because in 2 weeks from now we'll be celebrating the holidays. At least I hope I don't have to see you. Not in a bad way, but just I want you to be enjoying your time off, TJ. You've had a son 4 months ago, and I heard you're moving.
I'm buying a house.
I know.
Life comes at you fast.
That's not
for everything else.
Not meme history.
There's Rostockon's Rumble.
That's right. Oh man, that's the biggest thing happening in your life. The new expansion.
Yeah.
And also, I believe both of us will be casting the All-Stars event in Taiwan.
That's correct.
That'll be really fun.
Yeah, we're both gonna fly out on the evening of Christmas, not Christmas Eve, the evening of Christmas, to fly to Taiwan to cast the All-Stars event. I don't know. I'm excited for it. I don't usually travel during the holidays, but for this time, I made an exception because it should be a really fun event with a lot of cool, popular players, and not too long after a new expansion, which means we should see some very spicy decks.
Caliente. Thanks for watching this episode of TalkStone. You can find TalkStone every other week at twitch.tv/playhearthstone, 6 p.m. Pacific on Wednesdays. And you can also find the audio version on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play. For all things competitive Hearthstone news and analysis, make sure to check out playhearthstone.com/esports. We'll see you in the tavern.